Hi, so this is a quick introduction to Capture One. So Capture One is the software from Phase One camera makers. Um, in the early days, there was no storage or screen, indeed, in their digital back. So they came up with this software to allow to work tethered to computer, so they could store the images and see them on the screen. Capture One has now developed into a much more complex software, which so on top of tethering, which is the main use of Capture One, especially when you're shooting in the studio, for example. You can as well use it as an editing software, as well as your library management, so to manage your collection of images. You can do it with phase one camera, obviously, but as well with third-party cameras, except Hasselblad digital camera, which are the direct competitors of phase one, and hence why you can't use Hasselblad with camera with Capture One. In this case, you'd use Focus software, which is Hasselblad on software, and I'll do a quick intro on that as well very soon. So let me walk you through the interface. But before that, so whenever you open Capture One, and I'm working here with Capture One 20, which is the latest version, and which we should have soon at uni. So when you open it, you'll have access, you'll have this small window where you can actually see tutorials. So if you want to learn more about the software, um, do that. There's lots of different videos you can look at or go on their website. And so the interface, that's how it looks. Um, so you have on the left the tool, and so that's probably how it will look when you first open Capture One. So in the middle, that's your viewer for the images, and on the left, that's the browser where you can go through the images you've taken. So let's say we are taking some images. I've got Canon 5D Mark II link to my computer, and so you can see I can shoot with the live view, and let's do some quick images just so you see how it come up. You can obviously adjust all the settings on your computer. You can adjust the focusing as well. But so you can see in the middle of the screen, you'll have the viewer to look at your images, and on the right hand side, you've got the browser. On the top, you've got the cursor tool, which is slightly similar to what you would have in Photoshop. So it's highly customizable. You can go into view, and then there's lots of different options on how your screen might look like. And mostly you will be working with those different tabs in here. So that's your library. That's where you manage your images and folders and collections. So Capture One mostly work with two types of classification system. One is session, and the other one is catalog. So session is what you would use on the day of shooting usually, and it will create 4 different folders. Capture selects output trash. It will always take the raw file into the capture folders. You could move them to the select if you wanted to, but you can use as well the rating system instead. Anytime you export an image into a TIFF or JPEG, it will go into the output folder, and if you delete something, it will go into the trash, which means you can always go back there and recover something if you've deleted by mistake. And the other way is to create a catalog. Catalog is more on the long term if you want to manage your collection of images. So say you're shooting for the same clients 12 times a year, so you would create 12 sessions. At the end of the year, you would have 12 sessions for each shot, and then you could create a catalog which would gather all those sessions together. Next tab, as we saw earlier, is the camera tab, and that's what you use to shoot on the day. And you can apply adjustments to your image, and then you could make sure, if you look at next capture adjustment in here, you can copy the adjustment from your last image. Next one is the lens correction, and that's where you do everything related to your lens. So distortion, sharpness, chromatic aberration. That's where you can crop as well. That's where you can rotate your images. This one is the colors adjustment. The next one is the exposure adjustment. So it's interesting to see that divided in two. Then the next one is the details tab, and that's where you do the sharpening, noise reduction, where you can add film grain if wanted. Next one is styles and presets. So they've got lots of different styles packed with Capture One, and you can obviously create your own and save them as your user style. The next one is just the metadata. You can add keywords to your images, copyrights. And finally, the last one is where you would export your images. So there's lots of different process recipes that comes with Capture One, but you can obviously create your own. And as I said earlier, automatically it would be exported into the output folders. So here we go. That was a very quick one, just so you know. So basically, you would use Capture One for tethering session, mostly in the studio. That's the industry standard, so it's good to learn about it because that's what you would be asked to use if you assist some photographers or if you work on your own commission or assignments. And you can use it with every single camera, as long as you've got the Pro version, which is the one we have at Uni, but with Hasselblad camera. In this case, you would use Focus. You can download a free Soliday trial version, so do that if you want to play a bit with it. Thanks.